we have to move, we have to prepare for life because life throws us in a million different directions and we have to move in a million different directions in life.
You're listening to the What the Gut podcast, where busy moms can come for a holistic approach to health and vitality. I'm Allison, your host, a holistic health and wellness coach. In this space, we'll dive into the intricacies of achieving holistic wellness while balancing the demands of daily life as a busy mom. What the Gut is your haven for navigating the challenges that come with juggling numerous tasks while aiming for a healthier, more balanced life. Join me as we uncover practical solutions to common health hurdles, from managing fatigue to understanding all things gut health. Through insightful discussions, actionable insights, and tailored lifestyle strategies, my goal here is to empower you to embrace a vibrant, nourishing life while saying goodbye to being overwhelmed and exhausted. So if you're ready to embark on this transformative journey towards holistic well-being, hit that subscribe button. Get ready to discover the secrets to thriving in motherhood while nurturing your overall wellness. A quick reminder, everything discussed here is for educational and empowering purposes only and is not intended for personalized medical advice. Consult your personal healthcare provider for personalized medical advice. Welcome to What the Gut, where we create our own path to holistic health, one episode at a time.
What up?
What's up?
How are you?
Good. Kaytlyn, I'm really excited to have you here today. Look, I was looking at this description and I'm like, she's a lifter. And the dumbbells my son is for, and he was trying to draw a picture of them one day for me. It was really sweet. And he couldn't figure out what they were. I was like, oh, like the lifters. And he's, yeah. So every time I say lifter, I'm like a dumbbell.
I've been told I'm a dumbbell before.
I guess it could be worse, but
Yeah, there are definitely worse things there. But
yeah.
dude, it's so good to see you.
I know. This is fun. This is going to be fun. I'm
Yeah,
excited. I have so many questions. You're a lifter, you're a dog mom. So I have to ask, what kind of dogs do you have?
I have crazy dogs. I unfortunately lost my main dude back in
Oh,
the summer. He was an Australian Shepherd, and
my 9-year-old is begging for an Australian Shepherd.
they're the best. I had another dog during the summer, still have him. His name's Bo. He's staring at me right now about him, but he's Australian Shepherd Blue Heeler mix. And then because I like crazy in my life, I just adopted a rescue puppy 2 weeks ago. He's a year
Oh,
and a half. He was pretty abused and neglected. And so we're working through some old patterns just with people. We have to do that with him too. And it's been a little bit of a challenge, but it's been good. And he's happy here. He's warming up. He's just working through some old conditions.
yeah. We have, so like I was saying, my daughter she loves animals. My oldest daughter, she loves animals. And she really wants an Australian Shepherd, like always has. But we have a Husky and a Black Lab that we've had since before we were married. And then in May, we got 3 cats. So we have 2 dogs, 3 cats, three children. And so I'm like, we don't need anything else that poops right now. But yeah,
Yeah, the cattle dog breeds like Australian Shepherd, Blue Heelers, like any of those, man, I don't know what they consume when we're not looking, but they're just nuts. So I've learned how to like Bo has jobs around the house. And so like we're putting in a fence right now. My uncle and I are.
yeah, because you just got some land or something, right?
Yep.
Maybe
So
sometime.
he's been helping me check fence and he'll help me take out the trash and check the mail. And then we're working on him actually pulling the laundry basket to like where I fold laundry. It sounds cruel, but the cattle dog breeds, like they
They
were
want to do that though, right? Yeah. He
and
needs to come train my children.
he's a good boy. And then Hank is the rescue. It's gonna be a little bit before he gets jobs because his job right now is just
Like
to
healing,
as
like
nervous
working on
system.
himself.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
gut health,
awesome.
nervous system. We're doing all the
Yes.
things.
It's awesome. I'm really excited to have you here today. Like I was saying, there's so many questions I want to ask you about fitness and strength training, but you have a background being trained as a doctor of physical therapy. You got your bachelor's in exercise and movement science, and now you help active adults really get out of pain so that they can enjoy their lives and do what they love, which I love. I have never had any kind of like injury from fitness, but everybody I've heard that has, or that really any kind of injury, and it's somebody who enjoys like their fitness or movement, like it really like puts such a damper on everything else there forward. And so I feel like there's probably a lot of misconceptions as far as like healing and pain and like movement and fitness and stuff goes. So I'd love to dive into that too. But you started doing this about 4.5 years ago after PT school. I would love to know what made you want to do what you do now as opposed to like the traditional physical therapy. And I say that because like my background being trained first in Western medicine, like physical therapy to me then was like, oh, they're in the hospital working with people and outpatient stuff. That's what I saw. And now that I do functional medicine, it's interesting because I've gotten to meet a few other physical therapists who are more holistic too, but there's a whole other side of PT also, just like medicine in general. So, anyway, I'd love to hear what brought you into what you do now.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think initially I actually wanted to be PT super early. Like my mom is a rehab nurse or was, and I would go visit her at work and I would see the physical therapist and they were like messing around and playing games and stuff with their patients. And I was like, dude, that is sweet. I want to do that because I just want to play all day. I was 11, so like playing was like huge.
Yeah. I was going to say my sister went to physical therapy a lot growing up. She has a traumatic brain injury. And growing up, I would go with her to PT. And I remember it was the most fun thing because we would swim in the indoor pool. Anyway, I'm like, yeah, like that was the fun part.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that was really the path. I worked through high school, like really focusing on my grades and like studying and sciences and stuff like that. And then got into my undergrad program, set myself up to be like in like a bachelor program that really translated well to physical therapy. And right before physical therapy, I'd actually switched my major to pre-med. I just got burnt out with PT and I was just like, man, I just don't know. Eventually switched back. Just it was I felt like PT would be a little bit better of a lifestyle compared to being a doctor on call or surgeon on call or something. And so I switched back to PT, went through the program. After my first year, I hated it. I was like, I hate this so much. I feel like we're not doing anything. It was like one of the biggest things for me was if people get hurt at their baseline, physical therapy, insurance based physical therapy, like we don't even get people back to their baseline. We get them out of pain and we get them functional and then send them on their way. But there's really no, hey, if they got hurt at baseline, maybe we should make them better than baseline so that maybe they're a little bit more resilient, right? I did in services, which is something you have to do for like clinical rotations and stuff in PT school. I did that on like strength training in older adults, like really just have always been fascinated on leveling up and like better performance and things like that. And not just like performance on the field, on the court, or in the gym, but like in life, right? Like
Mhm.
I saw a huge glimpse of this because I actually worked at the hospital right after PT school in like a transitional care unit. So people who weren't good enough to go home, they were likely going to a nursing home or they just needed a lot longer stint of hospitalization because they couldn't take care of themselves. And it's the PTs I worked with, the OTs I worked with, they were great. But even then, it's we're not doing enough for these people to actually have meaningful change in their lives. Like it's just
It's like the model that it's just set up to
right.
be.
And we're
Same with
almost
medicine. Yeah.
we're just trying to slow the decline instead of reversing the decline. I was just like super frustrated and honestly, like I was pretty low mentally because I was like, there's so much more that we could be doing. Around that time, I was just so dissatisfied with like physical therapy and the healthcare system that I really just I was literally like 3 months out of my doctorate program and just went crazy and just decided to start my business and everything like that. And being a lifter, like I love working with lifters. I'd had a couple knee surgeries and a couple knee injuries that really took me out of my sports. And I never really felt like I got back 100%. And it wasn't until I found powerlifting and the heavy style of strength training that my knee started to feel like my knee again. I didn't have pain walking up and down stairs. I could walk, I could run, my knee didn't feel like it was going to give out all the time. And
That's really interesting because just from somebody who doesn't have a background in fitness, I would think like more of the weight and everything would make it worse.
that's what their traditional thought had been. But for me, it's no, like strong is
That's what your muscles want.
and yeah, and you create so much extra stability around your joints and just your body as a whole as you're getting strong. And a little bit of a side tangent, but like when COVID was happening, the people who were strong and also improved like cardiovascular fitness, those people didn't have near the mortality that,
Right.
don't strength train or do any kind of cardio. So like strength training really does save you from the chronic diseases and things like that. And so that's something that I just immediately got on board with. And so knowing I wanted to work with people like that, that's just what cascaded into this whole 4-year journey going on 5 years of helping lifters and helping them stay in the gym. And the gym to me is really, it's what I've been passionate about for the longest amount of time in my life. I found the gym when I was 16, training for like basketball and softball and stuff. And I'm 30 and I'm still doing it. And it goes so much more beyond just like hitting new numbers in the weight room or hitting a certain physique. I have moms and dads who it's like, no, I just want to be able to keep up with my kids, or when they have kids, I want to be able to keep up with my grandkids and have a healthy life. Or maybe their parents passed away because they didn't take care of themselves, it's been a little bit of a motivating factor for me here recently after I lost my dad, just how important that side of things really is so that I can have not just more years, but like more quality in those years. And so I think over the last 5 years, my mission has changed, but it's still tying back to those roots of like how important strength training is in day to day
Yeah.
and lifetime.
Yeah. So I know, like you mentioned, your dad passing, and I know that was fairly recently, like within a year or so.
Yeah. So we
Okay.
actually just hit the 1 year mark in December.
Okay.
So
Yeah. I knew that it had been not too long. And you've also, I know you told me like had autoimmune issues in the past and then like your knee surgeries. How has just like life hitting you and all of those things happening, how has all of that influenced your approach to physical therapy? And you were talking about not just getting back to baseline, but leveling up. Like, how has that affected all of that for you?
yeah, I feel like the autoimmune stuff, it's definitely changed like what my fitness looks like to me. I used to be I used to compete in Olympic weightlifting and really wanted to just run myself into the ground. That's what I enjoy doing, is just like doing these hard things because I can and just appreciating the body that I'm in. But here recently, I've had to scale back my training and take a more functional approach to it where we're still getting strong, we're still doing these things, but maybe we're not like running our nervous system into the ground. I think that's just what I enjoyed doing and just proving that I could. But here recently, realizing my body is just not able to handle that with the autoimmune stuff. My body just doesn't recover the same. Training takes a little bit of a bigger hit on me. And so I've had to change the way my workouts are. I'm hitting a little bit more cardio than I used to. It just helps my body recover a little bit better and I'm still getting something done. My strength training, I'm not going for 3 hours or 2 hours, or I'm not going to find a 1 rep max or anything like that anymore. It's more sustainable, it's more functional. Like, what are the things that I want to do to live a healthy lifestyle and be able to keep up with these crazy dogs? And if I'm blessed enough to have kids in the future or whatever that looks like, I enjoy a healthy lifestyle. I like hiking, I like rock climbing, like I like doing those things. And so what allows me to do all those things? So my fitness has definitely changed a lot. I think there after my dad passed, there was that grieving period, but it really helped to reignite the fire of why I even want to be healthy and strength train and stuff like that in the first place. Just he was 56, and so obviously a pretty premature death there. And so
Yeah.
just like, no, what are you doing? You need to like you don't want to live that same lifestyle, and so you got to get back into the gym and things like that. And so it really helped to reignite that passion for sure.
Yeah. Gosh. So I know you've mentioned before that strength training is life-giving and it's preventative for so many things. So how would you explain that concept to somebody who's unfamiliar with it?
Man, that's so tough. I don't necessarily feel like I just 100% go by the evidence all the time. We see that in like functional med and like holistic, right? Like sometimes the evidence doesn't support it, but we see the person in front of us.
Yeah.
And so it's almost that anecdotal, but I feel like there's so many research studies that show like strength training just helps like glucose regulation, it helps your blood pressure, it helps your resting heart rate, it helps your cognitive function, it helps prevent like chronic diseases and things like that. Obviously, we if we pair like nutrition and we pair sleep and we pair like stress management, that's like the perfect cocktail of just trying to live the most optimal and healthy life that you can and prevent as many chronic diseases as we can. If
Yeah.
you look at things like even just hormone regulation, if people are carrying extra body fat, that changes just the estrogens that are in your body, which changes your hormones, which changes like your cancer risk. There's
Mhm.
just so many things. I feel like that would be like 10 podcasts if we,
That's a loaded question.
but it is just so vast, the benefits from a health perspective. But then you also throw in like the confidence, the cognitive benefits, the stress management side of things. I know a lot of people literally right before we hopped on here, I was talking to someone who had, she was super mismanaged. The surgeon basically just took something out, even though they didn't ask for permission. Like it was supposed to be a simple surgery. And it was like, yeah, no, like
They
it,
just took it.
they just took it. Yeah, it was horrible. And so she's been battling with knee pain for 2 years. And she's over the last few years, I haven't had a stress outlet. And so I've just been all like, just bent out of
Blowing
shape.
up on people or holding it in or something.
For me, strength training and just being active, those are outlets for people, but it just really encompasses all the areas of health and wellness and prevention and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've worked with like over 400 lifters since 2017. What kind of lifters do you typically work with? Like, I lift weights,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I've never considered myself a lifter. But like what kind of people
Active, right?
like yeah, but I guess I'm wondering like do you work with people who are beginners who don't know where to start or do you work with those who do like powerlifting and bodybuilders? Like where's your main focus?
Yeah. So a couple years ago when I was competing and doing that stuff, it was more towards the competitor, right? I feel like I could just relate to them better. And so it was easier for me to have those conversations. But then after all the autoimmune stuff happened and whatnot, I've really started working with just anyone who wants to live a healthy lifestyle. So you, for example, you would be great to work with. I have a dad right now who actually I started working with his wife first. She has RA and she was just having all this joint pain and everything like that. We worked together. She got better. She's pretty crunchy, and so she just wants to be there for her kids, and she doesn't want this disease to take her out. Uh,
Yeah.
then I started working with her husband, who was having back and neck pain, and he just wanted to live a healthy lifestyle too with her. And he needs to be able to pick up the slack whenever she's in an RA flare, whatever. I have a lady right now who she's very beginner. She was having some hip pain, some pelvic floor pain, just constantly being mismanaged by the traditional healthcare system. And so she came to me, and I think we've been
Yeah.
working together for like 8 months now. We got out of pain, and now we're just getting strong. I have
That's awesome.
I have a bodybuilding competitor. So I work with just a whole array of people, whether it's just
Well, you've changed too throughout your journey. So people you work with have adapted to that with you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm curious, you did say like some people that you worked with, they've been mismanaged by the
Mhm.
system before. What does that look like to you? Like when somebody comes to you and they have been mismanaged or led the wrong way with their previous experiences with PT or anything, what does that look like? If there's people out there listening like that might be experiencing this, like how do they know?
Yeah, no, great question. I feel like the biggest thing for me is you have to be your best advocate. And a lot of times the doctors, unfortunately, are just cycling patients in and out and they don't actually take the time to listen. And for anyone who wants to have a healthy lifestyle, there's usually a few different things, but one of the biggest things that I hear is, yeah, the doctor said just to rest it. If it hurts, don't do it, which I think is stupid.
And that's essentially too, like as a nurse practitioner, like that's all they taught us in school. And we're the ones who would be referring you to PT.
Yeah.
So like that somewhere it gets taught that down the line, and that's just what everybody's led to believe. And yeah.
I think my biggest thing though is like if someone was having this is the difference in
Yeah, what's the difference? Like when is it appropriate to listen to your body and say, "Okay, I hear you. You want me to stop. I need to stop." And when is it okay to say, "Okay, I hear you crying. Let me do something to fix it." You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? Like how do you know?
no, there's definitely like for me, like you have to have some level of intuitiveness. But what I was going to say was it's crazy to me that people who are living an active and healthy lifestyle, we see, hey, this can decrease like the amount of meds that you have to take. It can decrease your blood pressure. It can decrease like your
Yeah.
glucose. It can do all these things. Yet we are quick to tell people, hey, if it hurts, just stop doing it because you don't have to do that. But then we talk to someone who has knee pain going up their stairs, and we're going to pull out all the bells and whistles, send them to PT, do all these things. But to me, it's like, why are we telling the people who are actually trying to like make lifestyle changes and like actually influence their health? Oh, hey, if it hurts, just don't do it. Like, we don't tell the people going upstairs,
Right.
just don't go upstairs or go move. Like, why?
Well, yeah, and you just think about the older and more mature that we get, especially ladies, like the way that our hormones affect like our bone density and everything, and being more prone to osteoporosis and fractures if we don't have the muscle strength either. Telling a middle-aged to more mature lady to stop doing a certain movement, that might hinder her daily activities, which just decreases activity and quality of life.
And what's that tell you about like mentally, like cognitively? What's that tell you about your body? Oh, hey, I know you're trying to do these things, but maybe just stop if it hurts. Like that to me, that reinforces like, oh yeah, like you're weak, like you shouldn't be able to do that, or like, hey, that's bad for your body. You know what I'm saying? And so no, like we need to keep moving. We need to figure out ways to keep moving.
I've
Uh,
never thought about it like that. I just think about it like back in the day, Jesus walked everywhere. If something hurt on him, which I don't think it ever did, he never said, "Oh, I can't do that anymore." Although he could heal himself.
he had some superpowers that we're not privy to, but that's
I just think about stuff like that. I'm like, but what about whenever they didn't have cars to drive places and they walked everywhere or had to carry all of this stuff? Anyway, I'm sorry. You were saying something and I
no,
went
you're
off.
good. I think back to like your question on when is it like, okay, yeah, let's take a chill pill versus let's take, or like the BS advice of just resting it. A little different if we take a couple days off to just focus on recovery and like getting some extra sleep and allowing things to calm down, right? For me, if something is like constantly hurting you though, like if you repeat that cycle over and over again, like that's probably
Yeah.
get it
If
checked
you,
out.
yeah, if something starts hurting and you rest it for the rest of the day, but it's still bothering you a week later, obviously that's a
Yeah.
red flag. But
I
yeah,
also I think too, like when doctors or NPs or PAs or whatever, if or even physical therapists, like we're like my profession is also guilty of it. But it's if you tell someone to take a month off the gym, to me, what happens, or their exercise routine or whatever, to me, what happens is they got hurt at whatever baseline they were at. So over that month, not only have we figured out or fixed why they even got hurt in the first place, maybe it was a form thing, maybe it was like a strength thing, maybe they weren't warming up very well, maybe their body just wasn't moving the way that it should. So not only are we not addressing that, but we're also getting weaker in that month that we took off the gym. So then that just sets you up for failure when you return to the gym. And if we go back to what's that telling you? Oh, I guess I can't do this anymore. And
You
then
wonder why everybody's depressed. Man, that is really interesting. You said something about form, and I want to ask with your clients, obviously, I would think that you discuss proper form and stuff like that. What is some other advice that you give to somebody who's new at strength training? Not even just about preventing injuries, but if somebody is very new to strength training, like where do you start with them, or what are the basics of what you tell them?
yeah, I think it really comes down to the cues that I can give someone, but I also attach videos to like my exercises so they can watch that, see what they're supposed to do. And then after they do it, whether it's that day or the day after or whatever, because I do everything online. Hey, where'd you feel that? What are you feeling whenever you're doing that? Are you feeling it here and here? Because this is where we want you to feel it. And I try to include that in my coach's notes, especially if someone's new, really wanting to make sure, hey, on a deadlift or hey, on a squat, you're supposed to feel it here and here. Is that what you felt, or do you feel it somewhere else? So just having those conversations. One of the things that a lot of people are uncomfortable with, but it's really highly underrated, is videoing yourself. Because I have people, even they've been lifting forever, and they're like, oh yeah, no, I watched myself do that and I noticed.
Bad form or something.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
I think videoing or even watching yourself in a mirror is hugely underrated and can prevent a ton of problems. And so I would say that's like a huge tip right there.
Yeah. So I never like started working out or lifting weights until probably like yeah, no, it was like 4 years ago. It was like right after my son was born. And so I just got like dumbbells and started doing stuff at home. Now I have a mirror, and I'll tell you that has been super helpful for me. But having somebody tell me the proper form too, sometimes you don't get that with those YouTube videos or just like looking them up. So that to me is something that's like, it's like I've been doing this move for this long, but then I think about it, I'm like, am I even feeling that in the right place? Or am I getting out of it what I'm supposed to? Am I lifting heavy enough? That's my thing too, is like whenever you're doing so many reps, like how heavy should you go? I know that varies with everybody, but how does somebody know if they're ready for that next level? Like they've been doing workouts consistently for so long.
So we have different rep ranges, right? Which means like how many times you're doing that exercise. And so the lower we go, the higher the weight's going to be typically, right? So that's going to be more strength based. The higher the reps we go, the lower the weight. That's going to be more like muscle building, endurance building, things like that. And so for me, obviously, I'm not going to have someone do a 1 rep max if they've been lifting for a couple weeks, right? That's kind of,
Yeah.
but if their goal is to get strong, then we need to be training in those lower rep ranges with more weight. Again, I'm not going to just throw someone into that immediately, but that is something that we're going to be working towards, right? We want to slowly start backing down on how many times we're doing it and increase the weight so that we are getting stronger. If someone really wants to pack on some muscle size, or I guess the term that's super hot is like toning up, then what we want to do is probably train a little bit in those higher rep ranges with a little bit lower weight. We're still pushing hard. The intensity should still be difficult. The emphasis and like where we're focusing on changes with that, right? So if we take squats, for example, if you came to me and you're like, Kaytlyn, I just want to squat 300 pounds. That is my goal. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to do lower reps. And again, that's how many times you're doing that exercise. We're going to do lower reps, higher weight. Okay. We're going to do that over and over until we end up getting to your goal. If you're like, I don't really care, I want to be able to squat 100 pounds 10 times because I want to be able to pick my kid up and I don't want to be like just gassed afterwards. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to train more on the higher rep side. We want to be able to do that for more of an endurance aspect and build muscle and things like that instead of just that absolute strength. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So as far as preventing injuries, What tips do you have for people who are strength training and want to prevent injuries?
Yeah, I would say ditch the foam rollers and ditch all that stuff and actually do your mobility work and do your smaller muscle, like your rotator cuff and your shoulder blade muscles and all those things. Like we have to get those areas stronger. The foam roller, it feels good, but it doesn't do anything as far as like injury prevention goes. But that's one of the things that people rely on the most. So I'd say ditch that stuff, do the mobility, work on the smaller muscles. I'm actually going to be launching a group program here probably in about a month or so, and it helps you train in various planes of motion. So basically, it's, instead of just moving forward and backwards or doing things in one plane, we're actually doing lateral movements, we're doing some twisting motions, we're doing all those things because as we get older, we stop moving. And so what we
Yeah.
do is we want to put that movement back into people. And that's, I think that honestly is going to be a big thing to help prevent injuries, right? We have to move, we have to prepare for life because life throws us in a million different directions and we have to move in a million different directions in life. But yet, whenever we're doing strength training, we train like up and down, right? Forward and backwards. We don't train side to side. We don't train the like in the weird positions or anything like that.
Right.
My group program is going to be about. But yeah, I would say we have to look at recovery, which is probably where you can come in, focusing on gut health. We're focusing on good quality foods. We're focusing on sleep, stress, focusing on getting our movement in. All those things are just going to help you prevent injuries. It sounds like a lot, right? But you don't just tackle all those things at once. You slowly start to build your routines and your habits and things like that. But those are the underrated players, in my opinion. They're just getting good sleep, not eating like an a-hole, like all those things.
Right.
It's just so important. And then getting like good quality movement in, moving outside of what people normally do in the gym and actually training for life. That's for me, you can't eliminate the risk of injuries, but you can prevent some of them. And so that's what we really want to do.
Yeah. And if you do get injured, you're going to be more resilient and have that strength in all these other muscles, not necessarily just that one area that's injured. So that can help support that area too. So that makes sense. If somebody out there is afraid to start lifting weights, not just because they think they're going to get bulky, because that's almost like a whole other conversation, right?
That's a whole other conversation.
I don't want to hear that. But what are some things that lifters face that is really challenging, and how do you help them overcome that?
I feel like we touched on this maybe a little bit where it's like people are quick to just say, oh, that's not, you don't have to lift, you don't have to do all these things. And so it's then just stop doing it and you won't hurt. But so I think that's one thing, right? People are quick to just like jump on cortisone shots and expensive imaging and all this BS. Another topic
Yeah.
for another day. I feel like they get mismanaged in that realm. But as a lifter, as someone who's active, the same exercises that Aunt Betty Sue from down the street, like who's 80 years old and just wants to take care of a freaking cat, like the exercises she's doing in PT for shoulder pain is not going to be what helps you eliminate your shoulder pain or get back to your active lifestyle. Because if you want to throw your kids up in the air, or if you like to rock climb, or you like to do all these things, like these little 2 pound weights aren't going to do anything for your rehab. They'll get you to
Yeah.
a certain point, maybe, but they won't actually help you like prevent and maintain and get stronger so that you don't get hurt again. And so for me, I think that's where a lot of PTs are mismanaging patients, clients, active adults because they're just not loading them enough. When your lifestyle has a lot more of a demand than, again, Aunt Betty Sue, then
Mhm.
you're going to need a different approach. You're going to need a lot more loading.
So,
That's a huge area that
yeah, it sounds like the approach you take is a lot more personalized based on person's lifestyle and where they're at, where their baseline is, and where they want to be, as opposed to traditional PT, which maybe is more cookie cutter.
can be. And
Can be.
I don't want to bash like PTs, right? Because a lot of it is like,
Right. You are one. That's what you came from. It's just, it's what you've seen. It's from your experience, what you've seen.
yeah, no. I also think too, like there are certain protocols, right? Like these are the exercises that we do for shoulder pain or rotator cuff pain, or this is the protocol that we typically follow for XYZ, right? Whereas if I have a lifter who's having shoulder pain here and it's only whenever they're up overhead, that tells me something completely different than, yeah, my shoulder pain is here all day long. It doesn't change, it doesn't move. So for me, this is why I'm so big on the root cause. If you look at my Instagram, you'll see me talking about the root a lot of the time because we have to get to the nitty gritty of what's actually going on so that we can attack it with a personalized approach and not just do, oh, hey, my shoulder hurts here, which tells me it's rotator cuff pain. So I'm going to do all these exercises, but not actually figure out why it's hurting in the first place. And I feel like this is an insurance based thing, but insurance doesn't allow physical therapists to actually get down to the nitty gritty of what's going on. I can't tell you how many times I've had people with back pain and we've looked at the back, nothing's really showing up. I always look at the hips whenever I'm looking at back pain because they're so closely related. And I can't tell you how many times people have back pain because of their hips, but insurance doesn't necessarily allow you to look at the hips to investigate further into what's actually going on. So the back's fine. So we're just going to do low back strengthening. But that didn't
Right.
do anything because the problem was at the hips. I feel like that's another big area, not just for lifters, but for just general population people as well. We're just not
Yeah.
the insurance-based systems, just let's get you
It,
in and out as cheaply as we can.
it limits you for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So, how often do you recommend strength training to your clients?
Most
Or
of
is
my
it,
people are already lifters. They're probably doing something 4, 5, 6 days a week. It really just depends. I think this is again where the personalized approach comes in because if I told you, hey, you need to do this 6 days a week, if I would have told you that 4 years ago, you probably wouldn't have done it because that wasn't your norm. That wasn't what you did. But I was like, dude, let's just start with a couple times a week. Let's get some movement in. That's much more attainable and achievable and allows you to build that consistency. So if you wanted to add a third day in a few months because you really enjoy it and things are going well, then you can. I don't think that there's really a set number where it's this is absolutely the best thing for everybody. It really has to come down to that personalized approach too.
yeah.
If we're doing 2 days a week, we might do 2 full body days. If we're doing 6 days a week, we might split it up by like muscle group, right? So I think your training should evolve and adapt to your schedule. Obviously, we need to push you a little bit, but it should really fit to what you can actually do, something that doesn't seem overwhelming. And then that way, like we can make that sustainable change. Cause I'm sure you talk about it with all your clients, but it's not, hey, do this 4 week program or this 12 week program and all your problems go away. It's no, like we're actually creating a lifestyle change. We're creating
Yeah.
habits here. We're wanting this to be sustainable. We don't want the yo. We don't want to be super hot and doing all of our things for 2 days or 2 weeks and then fall off because that doesn't do anything. It's that sustainable change that we have to have. Sometimes less is more in those situations.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure just like with your lifestyle and the things you've experienced lately, family stuff and your autoimmune issues, like you've learned there's different seasons where you have to step back and change things, but you can still figure out like how it can benefit you, right? That doesn't always mean that because you're not doing as much, it's not as great. So
Yep.
that's always interesting too, because I have always been the kind of person that is, I got to do more. I got to do more. And very recently have I been like, no, like I'm going to do less and just do better quality of what I'm doing. And it has brought me so
Yeah.
much peace. But that can be true with your strength training also, which is very interesting. Kaytlyn, this has been such a awesome podcast. I just want to go lift weights now and go work out. But do you have anything else that you want to leave our listeners with today?
I don't think so. Just don't be afraid of movement. And if you're having pain in the gym, figure out the root cause and keep moving.
Yes, I love it.
Thank you for being a part of my journey on What the Gut podcast. For a deeper dive into today's topics, head over to allisonandwellness.com/whatthegut or find the detailed show notes linked below. Hey, and don't miss out on future episodes. Hit that subscribe button, and if you love this one, please leave me a review. Let's keep the conversation going over on Instagram. Connect with me and stay updated and engaged with my awesome community. Plus, share these valuable insights with your tribe. They deserve to feel as amazing as you do. You can find me at Allison_and_wellness on Instagram. Your support means the world to me. I'm looking forward to our next awesome chat. But until then, stay curious, don't drink too much coffee, keep the vibrant energy flowing, and take care of your gut. Catch you real soon. Oh, and hey, if you're ready to dive deeper into personalized wellness, check out my one-on-one health coaching program at allisonandwellness.com. Let's make your journey to holistic health truly transformative.